I would consider myself a good person, but my wife would consider it sometimes a little difficult. But are you a good person? Okay? And that ties into another question that you got to ask yourself. Okay? If you say you're a good person, then who are you a good person by whose standards? Are you a good person by man's standards? Are you a good person by God's standards? Okay? That's the second and third. We'll keep that as one question. That's the second question I want to ask you this morning. And the last question I want to ask you is, do you live the way God intends for you to live? Do we as Christians live the way God intends for us to live? Okay? Number one question is, who are we? Who are we as Christians? Number two question is, are you a good person according to man or God's standards? Third question is, do you live the way God intends for us to live? Okay? Now, you've just read 5 different books of the Bible, and 3 of them passages were different parables where Jesus was caught with sinners. He was caught with bad people. He was caught with not so good people. Okay? And back in that day, some of the not so good people was not so good people. Nobody wanted to be around them. Okay? The first passage that I think Austin read was Mark 1:40-42. It was about a man that had a disease known as leprosy. Nobody wanted to be around these people back then. If you had leprosy, you was the dirt underneath the shoes that people walked on. Okay? That's the type of people that Jesus hung out with. Some people, I've done a lot of study when we first started talking about Youth Sunday this Sunday, I started digging in a lot of study into this passage, whether God even wanted me to do this, if He even wanted me to talk about this. Because there's so many different things out there that you can come across, and there's so many different things that you can find out there. Some people say, yes, Jesus was a friend of sinners. Some people say, no, Jesus wasn't a friend of sinners. My opinion, if Jesus wasn't a friend of sinners, heaven's empty today. If Jesus was not a friend of sinners, then heaven is empty today. There is nobody in heaven if Jesus does not love sinners. Right now, I want everybody to close your eyes, and I want you to close your eyes, and when I'm fixing to tell you, I want you to imagine. I want you to imagine yourself being in this place as the time that what I'm fixing to tell you it comes true in your life, and it comes true in the church today. I want you to imagine, as you're sitting there with your eyes closed, I want you to think if you hear that back door of the sanctuary open right now. You hear the back door of the sanctuary open, and then you hear the back door of that sanctuary close in the foyer up there. And I want you to picture a lost soul walking through the doors of this church. And I want you to picture this guy. Now this is where I want you to dig in and picture exactly what I'm talking about. Because I want this guy to walk in, and I want him to smell bad. I want him to have holy clothes on, holy pants, holy shirts. He looks like he hasn't been to a store to buy clothes in over a year. This guy's got tattoos, or this woman's got tattoos all down her arms, on her necks. He's got piercings everywhere imaginable that you can see. Now this person walked into this church this morning, and he sits down beside one of you in one of your pews this morning. And I know the first thing that's going through your head is, this is going to make me uncomfortable. Well, it probably is. Because nothing in the Bible I have found is where Christianity is supposed to be comfortable. This guy comes in with holy clothes, holy shirt, holy pants. He or she's got tattoos just from one end to the other. And he's got ear piercing from one end to the other. What is your first reaction when you see this person walk in this church? Well, do you go up and do you welcome this person with open arms? Or does this person sit back here in this pew as he's looking on to the front of the congregation that sits here, that's here every Sunday morning? He sees walking in the door every time the doors is open, Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night. He sees these people walk in this church, and as he's sitting in the back there, looking to the front of this congregation, does he see somebody turn around and look at him and kind of make a smirk on their facial expression or something? Because everybody knows that if that door, that foyer opens right now, every head is going to turn to the back of this church to see who's coming in. If you have pictured that, you can open your eyes and look back up here at it. Now the question I want to ask you to go with that is, how would you treat that person? Would you sit in your pew that you're comfortable in? Because we have air blowing on us, we have lights. Would you sit in that pew and look at your neighbor there and say, that guy's got tattoos down his neck. That guy looks like he's been in prison. That guy's got earrings in his nose. Guys, and the young people hear this from me all the time. This is what we talk about in the youth. Because when they grow up and they become leaders of the church, I don't want them being leaders of a one-way church. I don't want them being leaders of a saved church. I want them to be leaders of a church that is full of lost people coming in from outside that need to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ. Amen. That's what I want them to grow up to be. I don't want them to grow up and say, hey, see that guy sitting back here? He's been in prison. Well, not talk to him. He's got tattoos. Let's not talk to him. He's got earrings in his nose and his eyebrow and his lips. Let's not talk to him. You see, in my opinion, RT, that's judging somebody for the way that they look and the way they act, Charles. That's judging somebody. Let me tell you this. Romans 2:1-3 warns us about judging. And let me read that for you real quick. It's Romans chapter 2. Romans chapter 2, verses 1-3. It says, therefore, any one of you who judges is without excuse. Okay, we can stop right there. Anybody that judges is without excuse. You have no excuse to judge nobody. For when you judge another, you condemn who? Yourself. If you judge somebody else, you are condemning your own self. How many of us knew that when we judge somebody? How many of us knew that when we talk about somebody over there, we're condemning ourselves? You see, the last part of that says, since you, the judge, do the same things. He's talking about us now. See, that gets uncomfortable. We don't want to read no more. We need to stop right where we at. You see, it's okay for us to talk about somebody else, Brother RT, but when God or Jesus starts talking about us, we need to back down a little bit. We need to stop. Let's step back. Let's take a step back. Let's not read anymore. Let's stop where we're at. Verse 2 says, we know that God's judgment on those who do such things is based on the truth. How many of us can judge somebody based on the truth? How many of us can judge somebody that walks in the back doors of that church right now, has tattoos and earrings, what y'all imagine? How many of us can actually judge that person based on what we see being the truth? Who do we know? How do we know that that person went to prison? Maybe he did, but so did. What if he gave his life to Christ in prison and led 10 to 20,000 others to Christ in prison while he was there? Is he a bad person now?